Matt, 33M, and Rachel, 30F, had been dating for just over 3 years. They met through mutual friends at a brewery opening and hit it off immediately. She was smart, funny, and had her life together. He felt like he'd lucked out. While they had separate apartments, they spent 4 to 5 nights a week together, usually at her place since it was closer to both of their jobs. Matt kept some clothes and basic necessities there, and she had a drawer at his place. They each had keys to the other's apartment, not officially living together, but close. Fast forward to last December, things were serious. They had met each other's families, spent most nights together, and had the future talk multiple times. Matt was even thinking about proposing in the spring. Rachel's family lived about an hour outside the city. Her mom, Carol, was a bit of a busybody but generally nice to Matt. Her younger sister Jess, 27F, was outdoorsy, a personal trainer, always up for good conversation. Matt had met Jess many times but never spent time alone with her. Their dad had passed away when they were teenagers, so the 3 women were a close-knit unit. That weekend, they were staying at Carol's place for her birthday. Rachel had forgotten some ingredients for the birthday dinner she wanted to make, so Matt volunteered to go get them. It was snowing, and the nearest decent grocery store was 15 minutes away. He spent 40 minutes getting everything on her list. He even picked up flowers for Carol and a birthday card. He came back, parked in the driveway, and carried 4 grocery bags in through the garage. Their house had a weird split-level entry. You come in through the garage, walk up a few steps, and you're in the kitchen. The living room is just off the kitchen, with no real separation. Matt had just opened the door from the garage and was halfway up the steps when he heard Carol's voice. "So when is Matt going to propose? You two have been together forever." He paused, curious about Rachel's response. Not in a creepy way, just interested. "Mom, seriously? Not this again," Rachel said. "What? You're not getting any younger. He's a good man, stable job, good with money, treats you well." "Yeah, Matt's great, but," and then came the words that changed everything. "I'm not ready to close doors. You know, what if someone better comes along? Matt's a good guy, but I don't know if he's my forever guy." Matt froze on the steps, his foot suspended in midair, as if the weight of those words hit harder than the snow outside. The grocery bags in his hands, once light with purpose, now felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. His heart raced. It wasn't anger, at least not yet, it was disbelief. Sadness. A slow-motion unraveling of everything he thought was solid. Carol replied, "That's a terrible way to think. Rachel, you can't keep people as backups." "I'm not saying he's a backup. I don't know. He's safe, dependable, but sometimes I wonder if there's more excitement out there." That was enough for Matt. He quietly stepped into the kitchen, placed the grocery bags on the counter, and set the flowers for Carol next to them, the birthday card still attached. He placed his key to Rachel's apartment, kept on a separate ring, beside the flowers. Then he turned and walked out. He drove to a hotel about 20 minutes away. No text, no explanation, just silence. About 20 minutes later, his phone blew up, texts, then calls. "Where are you? Did you just drop the groceries and leave? What's going on? Why aren't you answering?" He texted back, "Once I heard what you said to your mom. We're done. I'll be by next week to get my things from your place when you're at work." Then he muted her notifications and sat back in the stiff hotel chair. Ordering room service, he asked for a burger he wouldn't touch and a whiskey he'd sip slowly. More for grounding than comfort. The silence in that room was deafening, but it was the first honest moment he'd had in a while. 3 years. 3 years spent building a relationship with someone who saw him as safe while keeping the door cracked open for something better. No thanks. He refused to be someone's plan B. He'd spent years showing up, being present, building what he thought was real. And to hear it reduced to safe and dependable felt like being stripped of his identity in one sentence. The next morning, he had 37 missed calls and a wall of texts. Rachel insisted he misunderstood, said she loved him, claimed she was just stressed by her mom's pressure. Every excuse in the book. Matt didn't reply. He read every message. Of course, how could he not? Each one a mixture of panic and persuasion, written in Rachel's familiar cadence. But none of them changed what he'd heard. He couldn't unhear the truth. And if she truly loved him, would she have ever said those words? Instead, he went back to his own apartment, thankfully still leased, and tried to process it all in peace. He opened the blinds for the first time in weeks, poured himself coffee, and let the silence sit with him. For the first time in days. He wasn't performing. He wasn't proving his worth. He was just being. Just breathing. The day after Matt left the hotel, he picked up his phone and made a call he never thought he would have to make. He dialed Jess, Rachel's sister. "Hey, this is awkward," he started, "but I need a favor." He explained everything. That he overheard Rachel talking to Carol, saying she was keeping her options open in case someone better came along. That he left. That it was over. And that he wanted to swing by the apartment next week to get his things without seeing Rachel. There was a pause on the other end. Then Jess said, "She actually said that? What a stupid thing to do." Jess didn't sound surprised, just disappointed. "She works Tuesday, 9 to 5. Jess added, "I can even help you get your stuff if you want." "That's surprisingly kind of you." Matt replied, "Look, I love my sister, but what she said was awful. And I've always thought you were a good guy. You don't deserve that." "Thanks, Jess. I really appreciate it." "No problem. For what it's worth, I think she's an idiot." Tuesday came. Matt showed up at Rachel's apartment with 2 friends to help him pack. He wasn't taking much, some clothes, electronics, a few books. He left behind anything that had been a gift to Rachel. He wasn't interested in being petty. As they were finishing up, there was a knock on the door. Jess stood there holding coffee. "Thought you might need help," she said, handing him a warm cup of coffee. "And I wanted to check on you. Rachel's been a mess. She's been pacing, crying, trying to call you nonstop. But honestly, I can't say I feel bad for her. Actions have consequences. Not my problem anymore," Matt replied, continuing to pack. "Can't say I blame you. I'd have done the same thing." After everything was packed, Jess suggested they grab lunch. Matt hesitated. Was it too soon? Too complicated? Maybe. But part of him also craved normalcy. Conversation that didn't come with emotional landmines. He figured, why not? They went to a casual spot nearby and talked for almost 2 hours. Not about Rachel, but about everything else: books, hiking trails, best pizza in the city. It was surprisingly easy, relaxed, genuine. At the end of the meal, Jess asked if he wanted to join her and some friends for a hike that weekend. Again, Matt paused, but then he said yes. That hike turned into another one the weekend after. Then rock climbing, then a concert. It wasn't dates, at least not at first. Just 2 people spending time with mutual friends. Decompressing, laughing, breathing. They weren't clinging to each other, they were simply moving forward in the same direction. And that started to mean something. Still, Matt couldn't deny the shift that was slowly happening beneath the surface. He found himself looking forward to their time together, noticing how her presence felt calming and energizing at the same time. The more time he spent with Jess, the more he noticed details he hadn't before. Her determination on long hikes, her patience at the climbing gym, her weirdly impressive knowledge of indie rock bands. It felt different, safe, but not boring, familiar, but not forced. He wrestled with the obvious question, the one he knew other people might ask too. Was it weird to hang out with his ex's sister? Was he crossing a line, even unintentionally? Was this fair to Jess, or even to himself? Maybe, but Jess made it feel simple. Meanwhile, Rachel hadn't given up. She started showing up at Matt's apartment unannounced, calling from unknown numbers, emailing. She even convinced Carol to call him. "Matt, she made a mistake," Carol said. "She's devastated. She wants you back." "Carol, with all due respect, she didn't make a mistake. She told you exactly how she felt when she thought I wasn't around. That's who she is. People say things they don't mean when they're stressed. Maybe, but she meant that, and I'm done. I'm sorry, but this isn't up for discussion. Take care." About 3 months after the breakup, Matt and Jess went for coffee after a morning run. Something shifted. He wasn't sure what sparked it, but suddenly she didn't feel like Rachel's sister anymore. She was just Jess. Funny, straightforward, genuine. He must have been staring. Because Jess tilted her head and said, "Do I have something on my face?" "No," he laughed. Would it be weird if I asked you to dinner?" "Like, a real one?" Jess considered it. "Probably. Definitely, for Rachel. But I don't care. If you don't." They talked it out. What it meant. The family fallout. The inevitable mess. By the end of that conversation, they both agreed, it was worth exploring. That Friday was their first official date. Dinner. Great conversation. That electric spark of something new. The lighting was soft. The wine bold enough to match her laugh. But what struck Matt most wasn't the setting, it was the feeling of being seen. Completely. Without judgment. It felt like starting over without starting from scratch. When he walked her to her car, Jess turned and smiled. You know this is going to cause drama, right? Probably, Matt said with a quiet smile. Worth it, though. Things are worth a little chaos if it means getting it right. She nodded. Definitely worth it. That night, Matt slept better than he had in months. 3 weeks after Matt and Jess's first official date, everything hit the fan. Matt was cooking dinner when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and saw Rachel's name. He'd unblocked her a few weeks back when the constant attempts to contact him had finally slowed down. Against his better judgment, he answered. You're dating my sister? Rachel's voice was sharp, accusatory, and trembling with rage. It was the kind of tone that didn't wait for answers, only looked for fuel. Hello to you too, Rachel. How could you do this to me? It's been, what, 5 minutes and you're already moving on? With Jess of all people? It's been over 3 months. Rachel. And yes, Jess and I are seeing each other. This is the most pathetic revenge play I've ever seen. You're just trying to hurt me. Not everything is about you. Rachel, he said firmly. Jess and I enjoy each other's company. It's not about revenge or spite. It has nothing to do with you anymore. Bull, you're using her to get back at me. Think what you want. I don't owe you explanations anymore. Mom is furious. This is tearing our family apart. Not my problem. You should have thought about the consequences before deciding I wasn't good enough but keeping me around anyway. Rachel's voice cracked. I made a horrible mistake. I do want to marry you. I was just scared of commitment. But I realize now what I had. Matt paused. For a moment, he felt a twinge, maybe nostalgia. Maybe sadness for what could have been. But it passed quickly. I'm hanging up now. Please don't call again. You're only dating Jess to hurt me. She screamed, just as he ended the call. Later that evening, Matt told Jess about the call. She wasn't surprised. She called me too, Jess said. Told me I betrayed her. That you've always been jealous of her. Are you okay? He asked. Yeah, Mom's pretty upset though. Says we're putting her in an impossible position. Matt hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Do you want to stop seeing each other? He asked, knowing the answer mattered more than ever. Jess looked him straight in the eyes. Not a chance. The next few months weren't easy. Jess's relationship with Rachel froze completely. Carol tried to stay neutral, meeting Jess occasionally for coffee but never addressing the obvious tension. Holiday dinners were out of the question. The idea of sitting across from Rachel, pretending nothing had happened, was impossible. Jess spent Christmas with Matt's family instead, wrapped in warmth that wasn't hers by blood but welcomed her just the same. She smiled, thanked his aunt for the cookies, but he could see it bothered her. When everyone else went to bed, she sat by the fireplace, silent, scrolling through old photos from previous Christmases. They had long conversations, late-night ones on the couch with tea growing cold, about guilt, fractured loyalties, and whether love could justify such disruption. Jess never wavered. Matt admired her strength, even when the emotional weight felt unbearable. Jess never folded. She was honest about missing her sister and the silence from Carol. But she never turned bitterness into blame. Still, Matt worried. These weren't just people he used to know. They were her family, her only close family since her dad passed. The last thing he wanted was to come between Jess and the people she loved. One night, while watching a movie, Matt asked, "Do you think they'll ever come around?" Jess shrugged. Maybe, maybe not, but I won't let their discomfort dictate my happiness. They started forming new traditions, rituals of their own making. Sunday hikes became sacred. Thursday night pasta became their pause from the world moment. They weren't rebuilding from Rachel, they were building forward together. Some friends took Rachel's side. Mutual friends faded out. Jess's gym circle and Matt's college buddies stood by them. They weren't rushing anything. No Instagram announcements. No calculated timelines. They weren't trying to prove anything, not to Rachel. Not to Carol. Not even to themselves. It was enough to wake up next to someone who actually saw you. One Saturday afternoon, while walking through the farmer's market, Matt turned to Jess and said, "You make chaos feel peaceful." She laughed. "That's the weirdest compliment I've ever received." He smiled. But it's true. They were just building something, slowly. Intentionally. And despite everything that had exploded in between, Jess still believed it was all worth it. So did Matt. One evening, Jess got a message from Carol. Dinner next weekend? Just you and me. It wasn't a resolution, but it was a start. Jess stared at the screen for a long time before nodding. She's reaching out, she told Matt. That's good, he said. Really good. Jess smiled faintly. Even if she never fully approves. I'd rather be with someone honest than pretend for comfort. Matt reached for her hand. We didn't choose this mess. But I'd choose you every time. And for the first time in months, Jess let herself believe that love, when fought for, could make peace out of wreckage. Always. 1 year later, Matt and Jess had officially moved in together. It was a big step, especially given how everything started. But it felt right. They found a cozy 2-bedroom apartment equidistant from both of their jobs. Nestled between a park Jess liked to jog in and a cafe Matt had frequented for years. One room became Jess's home gym, complete with resistance bands, yoga mats, and motivational sticky notes. The other became Matt's office, where he kept a whiteboard full of post-it notes and quiet reminders of how far he'd come. The walls were still a bit bare, but the home was filled with laughter, shared routines, and a kind of peace Matt hadn't known in years. They weren't in a rush for anything. No big announcements, no pressure from social media. Just building, day by day. No finish lines, no deadlines, just presence. They cooked together most nights, played board games on Fridays, and argued over which color to paint the guest bathroom. Everything felt earned, and every shared laugh felt like a reward. Rachel, as it turned out, had gotten engaged too, a tech guy in Seattle. They'd been dating for 6 months. Carol showed them the engagement announcement over dinner one night. Rachel looked genuinely happy. Matt studied her smile in the photo longer than he expected to. But only out of curiosity, not longing. He meant it when he said, I'm glad for her. And for the first time, he truly was. There were no hard feelings at that point. Just the acknowledgement that some things aren't meant to last forever. And that's okay. Family dynamics were still strange but settling. Carol had become more comfortable with Matt and Jess being together. She even joked once, well, I finally got Matt as a son-in-law. Just through the other daughter. Jess rolled her eyes. Too soon. Mom. Holidays weren't tense anymore, they were just normal. Maybe a little quieter, but normal. Jess still missed her sister, sometimes deeply. She would scroll through old family photos and sigh, wondering if things could have played out differently. But even in those moments, she never wavered. She didn't regret anything. She and Matt had many late-night talks in their new kitchen. Sitting barefoot on cold tiles, reflecting on how quickly life had changed, and how right it felt now. Some evenings, they'd sit out on the small balcony, legs tangled beneath a blanket, watching the world slow down. Jess would talk about the clients she trained, the milestones they hit. Matt would share a win at work or sometimes just listen, head resting on her shoulder. When thunderstorms rolled in, she'd pull him to the window so they could watch the sky flicker together. Look, she'd whisper, like it was magic. And maybe it was. They didn't chase big gestures. Instead, they prioritized the small ones. Fresh coffee waiting in the morning. Notes left on mirrors. A favorite snack in the fridge after a long day. Carol, over time, began to warm. She invited them over more frequently, never fully discussing Rachel. But never avoiding Matt either. Over dinner one Sunday, she watched them laugh over a shared inside joke and quietly said, "You two make a lot of sense." It wasn't an apology, but it didn't need to be. Healing didn't always arrive with grand declarations. Sometimes, it just showed up in moments of ease. Matt often thought back to that moment on the stairs. Grocery bags in hand, hearing words he was never meant to hear. That single moment had shifted the entire trajectory of his life. He could have proposed. He could have married Rachel, never knowing she was waiting for someone better. He could have spent years wondering why he always felt like a placeholder. But instead, he walked away. That grocery trip had cost him a relationship, but it saved him from a future built on doubt. And somehow, in all the chaos, it led him to something genuine. Jess. They weren't perfect. They still had disagreements. Jess sometimes left hiking gear all over the living room. Matt had a habit of working too late. But when they sat down for dinner, no matter what, they said thank you. Every time. It was a small thing. But it mattered. Matt ran into Rachel's old roommate at a coffee shop a few weeks back. She recognized him and mentioned Rachel had seen a picture of him and Jess on social media. She said, "They actually look happy. Like genuinely happy," the roommate shared. Matt didn't say much in response. He nodded, paid for his coffee, and walked out into the cool air. But inside, something quietly settled, like a long-held breath finally released. That was probably the closest thing to closure he'd ever get. Looking back, he wouldn't change a thing. Not a single word, not a single step. Sometimes the wrong relationship teaches you what you deserve. And sometimes, the right one was standing just a few feet away, waiting for you to notice. Matt didn't believe in fate, but he did believe in choice. And he chose Jess. Every time. They were building something that truly lasted.